Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert.
and Ryan, right?
Uh, is it Ryan? Are you? No, you're not my brother. No.
Yeah, I was a scroll all along.
Yeah. So today we'll be talking about the series finale, episode 9 of Wandavision.
First impressions?
First impressions. All right. How about you go first?
Well, I went first last time.
Okay.
Well, so my first impression was that I liked it. And I think that I went into the episode hoping for more resolution in a grander scale than what the show itself, I think, was ever looking to provide. So I don't want to say I was disappointed by it, because I think as the episode progressed, I was like, okay, this is going to cap off the show. This isn't any sort of cap off to the series, to the MCU as a whole. So there's going to be stuff left over at the end, and I'm going to need to deal with that. So once I got past that, I do think it delivered a satisfying finale to the series as a whole. But once I got past both end credit scenes, I was like, all right, well, I can't wait for Doctor Strange 2 now. But I think that's what they want me to feel.
Yeah. So I'm glad that maybe you kind of are coming out in the same frame of mind as I did, because I think that this hits a certain... This in some ways is satisfying and it brings some resolution, but there's something that it was actually hard for me to even really pin down what exact things, even I watched a second time, felt like not quite enough here. But overall, the series finale, pretty good, ties up the things that are necessary, but it just left me with some kind of sense, something incomplete. And I will also maybe attribute this to that I did expect it to kind of end with a big bang, and we did get some of that, but just not maybe the way that I was hoping for.
The episode gave me one like exclaiming out loud, like, yes moment. And I think there's a specific scene in this episode that I think improved the previous episode so much that I think that I now feel like the previous episode 8, is easily the best episode of the series, because of a scene in this episode that made that previous episode better, in my opinion.
I think I might know what you're talking about, but let's elaborate more on it as we recap. So we can just jump right into it if you want to start, Ryan.
All right. Well, so we take off with the end of the previous episode. Agatha has the kids in her purple nooses and is basically antagonizing Wanda to attack her. And so she messes with the children, like strings them up, and Wanda blasts back, tells the kids to go inside, and starts blasting at Agatha with their magic. And then Agatha reveals the power that was established in the previous episode with the witches, that she's able to absorb other witches' magics, apparently. But before it was hinted at, now she can say, I'm able to steal magic from those who don't deserve it. It's kind of my thing, which I wonder, the phrasing makes her say, I steal it from the unworthy, but is it her stealing from the unworthy, or does she just steal it?
Yeah, I think she's just saying that she's just basically making a slight, like, other people are unworthy, you know?
Yeah.
Because how can she say that, you know, her mother or the whole coven or Wanda are unworthy, and that's who's she to judge? She's just being a bitch.
So. Yeah. So, but then Wanda picks up a car, slams her into a house.
casual car slam into a house.
No, yeah, it's just your average everyday thing. And then as she approaches the house, we see Vision, if you will.
I was calling him Neo Vision when I was taking some notes.
I wrote down White Vision.
White Vision.
Well, okay. So he approaches Wanda and it's a very tender moment of, Vision, is that you? And then he puts his hands on her face and begins to try and crush her head and says, they said that you were powerful. Yeah. And then he's immediately sideswiped by the Hex Vision.
Which, before we get too far, I want to point out two things for me here. So one, with Agatha, having that confirmation literally from her mouth that her thing is absorbing Witch's power, I appreciated that because it was not very clear in the last episode. Yeah. I did not know whether she was absorbing the power or if she was just, if she was literally, I didn't know exactly what the mechanism was there. We just got what we saw. So I appreciated it, confirming that. And then this portion with Vision, what I was thinking there is that honestly, the Vision is made of vibranium. So, and we can assume basically super strong. I don't know why, unless he was just trying to pull along it and obviously for plot device reasons, but I don't know why he didn't just go like wham and like smash her head like a melon immediately.
I mean, dramatic effects and the like.
Yeah.
There's always moments like that where it's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I'll give it a little credit that perhaps there's, visions of robot, but maybe there's some latent memories that are preventing him from just destroying her.
Yeah. The Vision was never meant to be a cold-blooded killing machine. There's some level of maybe catching her off her guard, and maybe she was resisting it, like, because I think she did have her hands trying to resist it as best she could, and there is some magic maybe at play, but
yeah. So, but yeah, WandaVision. That's what I was calling her. Calling the vision of Wanda's.
Well, that's Hex. Gonna get confusing, but fair. Hex. I call it. I put him as Vision, but I'm in these terms, I would like to call him Hex Vision, maybe.
Okay, yeah, cool. So we'll make sure we use the terms White Vision and Hex Vision.
You can call White Vision Neo Vision if you like it.
Yeah, it sounds cooler. Neo Vision, Hex Vision. Sounds like real titles. Like we should be new superheroes. I know what I'm going to be for Halloween.
White Vision.
But yeah, so he saves Wanda, blasts the other Vision into a truck, and then Agatha shows back up. They both kind of like, divide and go face off with their counterparts. Vision flies up and is battling, WandaVision is battling Neo Vision in the air, and they're just going at it.
And Monica and Agatha go at it. We get a clip to see where Monica's been.
Did you say Monica and Agatha?
Yeah, I had Monica on my mind.
Yeah, we cut to Monica, and she is trapped in, I think it's Agatha's house with.
Well, Agatha's house. It's still established as Agatha's house with
Pietro.
Pietro, yes.
Yeah. And she tries to escape, but he, just knocks her down and prevents her. So clearly he's keeping her held up. That's the resolution of the end of the post-credit scene of episode 7.
Quick side thought. Do we think that the speed powers are being bestowed by Wanda's like psyche of filling in the blanks of this being Pietro, or did the speed powers come from Agatha? Because he still has the speed powers of Pietro.
That is an interesting point. It was definitely also something I was kind of wondering that is not tied up by the end. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about it as we move on, but that is another good point. But yeah, so we go from that little clip with Monica to the visions. They're battling up in the sky. The Neo Vision, tries to tear Vision's Mind Stone out, very much like the Thanos grab on his forehead, and he phases through Vision, which in that moment makes me think, Vision, why didn't you just phase through Thanos?
Well, this is fake. This is Hex Vision, so he gets phased through. He doesn't have a Mind Stone in his head at all.
I mean, I don't know. It just I actually know now I think about it. I do recall that the Vision in Infinity War, he was damaged, so his phasing was like messed up, I think.
But I mean, I think he's also like, I was reading it as this isn't a Vision that can really be harmed by anything within the Hex other than the Hex being gone.
No, I don't know, because one of Vision's powers is that he can phase through walls. He can phase through.
He can phase through walls, yeah, but like he can, but like at this, I think his powers are elevated while he's in the hex. I don't see him being able to be killed within the hex because he is a projection of the Mind Stone.
I guess that can seem somewhat true, but I mean, it's really Wanda's memory of him, so he would be mortal to a degree, I think, and have the same capabilities that
I think his
Vision should have.
mortality would be tied to Wanda, though.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I think it's hard for her to allow him to die. So I guess that has a fair point to it. But nonetheless, they battle in the sky, and they're exhibiting the Vision-like powers, lasers, phasing.
And then we see them both being tracked by Sword outside, and we cut to Hayward watching the dots battle it off as Jimmy Woo has been apprehended by the Sword agents and taken into custody, where Jimmy begins to sort of antagonize Hayward and say, well, you're going to get found out for having lied and having kept the Vision's body this whole time. Hayward says, nope, when one Vision walks out, we'll say that was the one that Wanda stole. And in the midst of this, Jimmy is able to steal a cell phone that was left on a table. And when he's taken out of the side of Hayward and like left in like some, I don't even know where he's left. He's just left in like a little warehouse.
Yeah, they just like throw him on a box or something. Like
he hits up I'm guessing he hits up the emergency call on this phone that's not his and dials up the FBI.
Yep. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he gives him a call and says, ask him to be there within the hour. So,
and I will say, if there's anybody who has phone numbers memorized, I believe Jimmy Woo would probably actually know phone numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
in this
I feel
day
like
and age.
Whatever FBI, he's got to know the FBI hotline or something, right? It must be part of their training to know the number to call when shit hits the fan. So
yeah.
But yeah, so we cut back to Wanda, who arrives in the town square. She's sort of walking around, kind of looking for Agatha, and everything around her seems pretty normal.
Yeah, all the denizens are...
Yeah, they're just going about their business. And until she gets blasted by Agatha, who then starts antagonizing her again. I can't remember exactly what the phrases or things she was saying there were, but just, talking about her, mentioned specifically...
The Darkhold?
The Darkhold, which... I don't know
there's an entire chapter on her in the Darkhold.
Yeah.
Written about her power, saying that she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, which...
Oh, Doctor Strange.
Hey, she's in the cast of that.
Oh, man.
I know that.
Yeah. But,
and that she is destined to destroy the world.
Yeah. And, and one thing I want to point out as we're talking about this part is that, so... I'm not a super comic buff. I really like Marvel now, and I'm getting more into it. But I do know or recognize the Darkhold, I believe, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., actually. So, I don't know.
The TV show?
Yeah. So, I don't know if you watched it, but they're I don't want to have any spoilers for anybody that hasn't watched things, but the Darkhold is a sort of a feature in a season of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, it's interesting that they brought that up, a little bit of continuity.
I haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I've heard things of it. Is it the season that has Ghost Rider in it by any chance?
Well, why would you say that? Now it's ruined.
Well, that shows...
Spoilers ahead, everybody.
That show's non-canonical, right?
It's
like semi-canonical, right?
I don't know, but you just ruined a surprise.
I don't think it's a surprise. I've heard Ghost Rider was in that show.
Well, I didn't know until I watched it, Ryan.
But spoilers
you watched ahead. It. Spoilers behind, everybody.
Yeah, it's been years.
Okay, I guess, yeah, maybe you're right, but still.
Spoilers for Age of Ultron, Scarlet Witch, and Vision exist.
Fine. Trying not to be ultra spoilery, but yes.
S.H.I.E.L.D. is Hydra, guys.
Yeah, so it is that season. It is mentioned there, and I don't know any more significance of the Darkhold other than kind of what was mentioned there, but it's interesting to see it kind of get brought back up in the MCU timeline. And I do wonder, again, I won't spoil what happens to the Darkhold or anything at the end, but how Agatha comes to have it or how long she's had it. And this does raise a question. Is it canonical? Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canonical? Did she get it from wherever it ended up there? Or, or I don't actually know exactly where in the timeline. I guess we know that this, falls after Endgame, decidedly 5 years later. So this could be a long time. She could have had plenty of time to go acquire it. Nonetheless, it's mentioned there.
But yeah, so Wanda is trying to argue against what Agatha is saying. She's not evil, she's not bad. And then Agatha says, well, if you're not that bad, look at what you've done to all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And she begins by she illustrates this point to Wanda by releasing Dottie from the mind control, and Dottie approaches Wanda, and Wanda says, Dottie, what's wrong? And Dottie replies, my name's Sarah, and I just want to know how my daughter's doing. I just want to hold her. It's not those words verbatim, but she's basically just trying to reach out to Wanda, like, let me just hold my daughter. She's just been left in her bed, kind of as we've discussed before, what's happening to the children when they're not
confirmed. They're just laying in their beds, apparently, just asleep or something. And most of these people can't even interact with their kids that are still in their beds unless they're part of the storyline and they get let out.
Yeah, and then Wanda says, "What are you doing? What are you doing to Dottie?" But Agatha's saying, "They're your meat puppets. I just cut the string," and she releases everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody around her in the town square, all the characters that we've seen before, they all just kind of start to march towards Wanda. They look like, they have some looks of. They just look antagonized. They look, upset, and
they start to surround Wanda. Cut back to Monica in the basement, where she's going through some papers around, asking, "What is this place?" And Pietro says, "Oh, this is my man cave while the missus is out." And she finds an electric bill in the name of someone else, and then she finds a headshot of a young Ralph Boner.
Yeah, Ralph Boner. Not. How? Okay, so
also, can I just say, the first time watching this episode, I did not click that this is Agnes's husband, Ralph. Oh, Ralph. That did not click in my mind.
Oh my God. Wow. That didn't click in my mind until now. You actually pointed that out. Ralph Boner. And here's one other thing I'm sitting there thinking.
Agnes Boner.
Well, I don't think that her name is Agnes Boner, but.
Well, she was married to Ralph.
I suspect now that I know that Agatha is not supposedly the witness protection person, I think that Ralph Boner is the witness protection, because that is the fakest name I've ever heard. It literally sounds like something that a dumb guy was like, "You're going to be put in witness protection." He's like, "You can pick your new name." And he goes, Ralph Boner.
I appreciate that you follow up on the witness protection thing as still a thing, but maybe it's not. I think it was a ploy to lure the FBI and Sword to Westview when Sword knew what was going on the whole time.
Fine, you're probably right. It was probably a dumb detail.
Yeah. Though I do know a lot of people, myself included, little bit disappointed that Evan Peters was put in the show just for a boner joke. Yeah. But it was a good boner joke.
Yeah, it was a pretty strong boner joke.
Boner.
Yeah, literally.
But then Monica pins him down and tries to figure out what it is that's keeping him his mind tied. And she notices this necklace around his neck is like glowing with some magic energy, rips it off, and he just becomes afraid, like, please don't hurt me. I think he's like, not let alone the hex mind control, I think he's been released of all mind control by this.
Yeah, it seems like, which I also wonder whether this brings us back to, did he lose his speed powers when that happened? That would only be confirmed if Agatha was the one giving him speed powers. But I don't know if Agatha's that strong. I think it must be that
it was being bestowed to him by Wanda,
who assumed that because that's the role he's supposed to have speed powers.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that is the best resolution or explanation we can have when there isn't one.
All right. So right after this happens, we see Billy and Tommy in their room trying to keep safe, but then Billy starts having visions of Wanda in trouble, and so they speed off downtown
to go help her.
Yep.
Then we cut back to Wanda, and all the people are surrounding her, and they're telling her, they're basically explaining what kind of terror she's inflicting on them.
I used to try and fight you, but now I don't anymore. Why?
Yeah, one of them says something like, my husband's out on business. Please just tell him never to come to this place. And they tell her, when we go to sleep at night, we're having your nightmares. And Wanda is confused by this. Again, we are kind of getting the point that even though Wanda did all this, she was not aware. She didn't even really realize the kind of what she was doing to these people, because they're telling her all this, and she says, "No, you're all living a happy life." Like she believes that she's giving them some sort of peace. And I think that, again, she fools herself. But when she first, in episode 8, when we see the memory of her arriving, she sees all these people and they seem all kind of just drab, dreary, down.
Yeah.
None of them seem very happy. So I think she imagines that even when she starts realizing what's going on, that she thinks that she's improved their lives. I mean, it seems as if the town looks kind of nicer and things.
They have a veneer of happiness on them, but it's not genuine.
Yeah, and only Vision got to see the what happens when their minds kind of break out of it.
But more so than having their lives ripped from them, they say that they feel her pain, they feel her grief, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them even, the phrasing I thought was poignant was, "Your grief is poisonous," is poisoning us.
Yeah, and even to the point where I think it is the person that plays Kitty from that '70s show,
Deborah Jo Rupp.
I knew it was that was her name, but I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I think she's the one that says that.
Yeah, she really says that, and she says, "Well, if you won't release us, then just let us die."
She says that after Wanda starts to get like overwhelmed by them surrounding and like speaking to her, and she like lets off a wave, and like it like she starts choking them all. Like there's like a red rope around their necks, like choking them all, essentially shutting them up.
Yeah.
And then when she realizes what she's done, she releases them all from the chokehold, and then it is
again, we see this burst of emotion, and then her doing something she'd been mean to do.
It is the Deborah Jo Rupp character saying, "Well, if you won't release us, at least let us die," which I thought was dark for a person in a Disney Plus series to say.
Yeah, I know. I think it really is just bringing home the idea of like what they're suffering through. That they're at the point, like the messenger guy, he even said he's exhausted. Like, could you imagine that they're basically, not only are they being forced to act a different way, but like some of them are being forced to like do manual labor constantly. Like that guy, we can assume he's just on a constant route of just doing deliveries or something.
At least in this episode, he was in a car.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no,
he is really always on his feet. Yeah,
they're really just bringing it home what kind of madness they've had to endure.
But
multiverse of madness.
But Wanda recognizes what she's done and begins to open the hex, and we see the immediate consequences of this action as Vision up in the air fighting with, Hex Vision fighting with Neo Vision up in the air. He begins to lose control of his the beam that he's firing off against the other Vision, and he lands to the ground as he's beginning to fade away. The boys arrive in town and they begin to fade away.
Right in front of Wanda. Yep.
Sword is able to enter the hex because the walls are opening up, and they make their way downtown. And then and so Wanda sees the boys fading and sees Vision fading, and so she begins to close the hex again. Agatha
makes it clear that they are tied to the hex now, so if she lets it go, then she lets them go. But she sees them, and she basically lets the hex come back in. And immediately as it's done, she sort of rejoins with Vision and the boys for a second, and then wham, Agatha tries to blast her, and she
creates a shield around them.
Yeah, but I believe Agatha starts absorbing that power from the shield. And
so we see Wanda having like her arms are like going black from the power sapped from Agatha.
Yeah, and then they are surrounded by Neo Vision in one corner, Agatha in another, and the Sword military coming from another venue. And they all do that iconic, pre-released image of, them all standing together. And Vision says, boys, we haven't really, trained you for this, but you were born for it.
Yep. So the first ones we see branch off are the two Visions who head into the library, which is apt for the confrontation that occurs. First, they fight a little, and then Hex Vision asks, "Why are you doing this?" And Neo Vision says, "I have orders to destroy the Vision." And to this, Hex Vision replies, "But I am not the true vision. I am a conditional vision," which Neovision replies saying, "I will need you to elaborate."
Yeah, very Vision. I would suspect that Vision even understood that this would, confuse his programming, or he understands himself, so he knows what, kind of maybe what to say.
Snap back to the town. We see Wanda.
She tells the boys to handle the military, and she goes to engage Agatha.
But in her engaging with Agatha, she goes up and faces her and then snaps herself away. She just like disappears in front of Agatha,
pulling off a trick that Agatha had just done earlier herself, kind of alluding to the fact that Wanda's literally picking up on the ability she's seeing Agatha do.
So the boys, specifically speeds around and basically takes all of the equipment from most of the military agents that have been placed on the ground.
After Wiccan sort of freezes them all in place, mentally.
Yes. But to this, Hayward gets out of the car where he hasn't had his gun stolen, and he begins to fire at these children.
Yeah, he just bold-faced walks up and starts shooting at kids.
But luckily, at this time, Monica has arrived and gets in the way, absorbs the first two shots from Hayward, which we see her like literally absorbing the shots, like passing through her body,
turning into some sort of energy, photons of light. Yeah, I don't know.
We don't quite know, but it's nifty. And then a third shot goes off, going right at Billy, but Billy uses his magic to stop it in place.
Yeah, telekinetically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not dead. Hayward kind of, after he empties his clip, he starts to go back to his truck and gets in as if he's going to drive off. And then, wham, Darcy just smashes into him with her ice cream truck and says, "Have fun in jail."
And that's a series wrap on Darcy.
Yeah, and that's all we got for her.
So we cut back to the visions, and we have Hex Vision describe the parable of the ship of Theseus.
It's a thought experiment.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's probably better explained in the show or elsewise, but we'll give the idea here. The ship of Theseus thought experiment essentially kind of asks the question: if you have an ancient ship and over time it degrades, but over time a historian slowly replaces pieces that break down over time, and eventually the entire ship has been completely replaced with new parts.
Is this the ship of Theseus?
Yeah, and then the other question is, if you were to take all the original parts, restore them, and put them back together, is that the ship of Theseus?
To which the answer is neither are the ship of Theseus.
But both are the ship of Theseus.
Exactly.
So it is an interesting thought experiment, and it's very pertinent to the situation going on. Literally, which one of them is the true vision? Is it the memory of the actual vision, or is it literally the pieces, the literal body constructed of the vision? Which one is true? And that he kind of uses this to, the Hex Vision uses this to negotiate or prevent the Neo Vision from just going on and trying to kill him.
And also tries to reach out to this vision to, he notes that he's a carbon synthezoid, and so his memories can't exactly be erased. They're still within him. They just need to be unlocked, as he is basically having those memories suppressed to make him a better weapon. And so with some convincing, he is allowed to restore the memories to Neo Vision. Neo Vision has a flood of all of his memories from the films come back to him. We see the image of the stone turn yellow briefly before going back to blue, and we see his blue eyes become
human-like.
Yes, like Vision's eyes are supposed to be. And we see this Vision say, "I'm the true Vision," and he flies away.
Yep, he just blasts off out of the ceiling.
And that's a series wrap on Neo Vision.
yeah. There's another completely unexplained goodbye. I mean, so we'll see you guys more later. But Hex Vision, he basically proceeds outside, meets with the boys, and kind of reunites with them and Monica there. And we see Agatha's peering down at them when we get this reminiscent sort of scene where Wanda very quickly moves up in this kind of jagged sort of movement pattern, and she uses her mental magic on Agatha's mind
to put her into a trance, a la Tony Stark in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Age of Ultron, not just Tony Stark, but all of them. That very quick, movement that we see when she's on the ship and sorceling all of the Avengers.
But we see the going into a vision thing that we saw with Tony, and I think that's the most emblematic moment in my mind.
Yeah, and we see this vision starts with Agatha, and she's tied back up to that post. They're surrounded by the husks of the witches' coven, and
Agatha's pleading, no.
Wanda sort of starts to talk to her and almost antagonize Agatha a little bit and say, you say these things about me, and I can't quite remember exactly what the words were, but she sort of she's like she's turning it on Agatha.
Yeah, look what you've done to your fellow witches.
And the witches, their husks start to get up, and they are like looking towards Agatha, and she's kind of saying no, but then the husks of the witches, they all turn towards Wanda, and they start saying, "Scarlet Witch, you're a witch. The Scarlet Witch. Yes, it is foretold." All these things, and they basically like start going up, and they all grab her. It's actually kind of a creepy moment, right? It's like zombies or something, like taking hold of her.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier there was a scene that made me like the previous episode better. This is, I think, the previous episode, at the time, we didn't know that it was setting up for this as a payoff, which I'm not saying that this is a perfect payoff, but it makes the setup in the previous episode make sense. I think it has made that episode go from like probably like an 8 out of 10 to like a 9.5 out of 10.
I would totally agree. Yeah, once I started seeing that, I was like, oh, okay, this is why we had to see that. And it explained, like, the questions I had about that scene, it explains. The other things that we had mentioned about the scene were kind of just little like whatevers. They weren't like too big of deals. The de-aging was kind of, this and that.
Yeah.
But it's that I had questions and I didn't understand its purpose in the show. Now that we're seeing this here, definitely validates its presence in that episode, which is, an important thing to look at. I was kind of talking about this this series, to me, and I kind of like that they're doing this, is really, I consider these series prolonged movies.
Yeah,
it's like it's a story that couldn't be told in 2.5 hours, so they were just giving us a whole series of it, and they're breaking it up that way. But I look at like all these things as just really flowing one into the other.
Yeah, so any one episode, technically speaking, doesn't need to be a complete story. I think the only episode that really serves as a one and done thing in a fairly resolved way is episode 1, but even that one ends with the person watching the screen. So none of these episodes are meant to have resolutions, but that's what TV is. And the series as a whole doesn't have a resolution because that's what the MCU is.
Yeah, exactly. And it does resolve some of the points, but yeah. But so the husk zombies, they grab hold of one and they tie her up. And Agatha starts to sort of try to negotiate. She says, your spell that you originally cast on the Hex, it's broken. If you give me your powers, you give me the powers of the Scarlet Witch, I'll fix your spell for you so you can live here with, Vision and the boys and, live happily or whatever. Wanda, she's, surrounded by these witches and they're chanting, it is foretold, all these things, all these just whispering and saying all these weird, creepy things and surrounding her. And she just, she gets enraged, and then
I believe at this point we like start to see the Scarlet Crown like appear in magic on her head as well.
Yes, we get that Scarlet Crown that's coming out, the picturesque Scarlet Witch sort of headpiece. But it's now being made out of magic on her head.
Yeah,
and as she gets enraged and this starts to come out of her head, she sort of puts her head down, and this blast erupts from her, scattering all the witches. And doesn't really affect Agatha too much. And she literally leaps forward and tackles Agatha out of the vision and back into the Hex. She tackles Agatha out and then basically just starts to engage with her. And they begin a pitched battle up above Westview.
It's not so much a battle as it is. It appears that Wanda's giving Agatha what she wants and is shooting her with their power to give the power to Agatha. So Agatha is sort of like, haha, like she's like, she's falling for what I told her to do. So we see Monica firing, or Wanda firing off at her, and so the blasts, a lot of the blasts are hitting her. But I was noticing the first time, and I think if you're watching, some of these blasts are flying off and hitting the wall. We even see from outside the wall being like affected by the blasts going up against it.
Because clearly Wanda is so upset that she's just blasting wildly and just going crazy with it. And even the Vision comes up to try to assist Wanda, and she holds him back. We don't understand quite for what reason, but maybe she just wants to duke it out with her alone.
Or maybe she just wants to give her the powers because Agatha said she'll correct it. Maybe she can have her family.
So we see Wanda blast, and all this energy that Agatha absorbs.
And we see her face like graying out. She's becoming old. She's having her powers stripped from her.
She's turning in those same kind of husks that the witches we saw in those episodes.
And Agatha's just saying, more power.
More power. And then we just see Wanda floating there and just grayed out, as it looks like she's been drained almost to her limits. And Agatha sort of condenses all of her power within her, and then says, sorry, Toots, you actually can't, once a spell's cast, you can't change it.
Only the witch that casts the spell can change it. I think.
No, I think she said once a spell's been cast, it cannot be changed.
Okay.
And then she gets ready to blast Wanda's, frail and vulnerable form with the blast, and nothing. Fizzle.
And this is the, for me, the oh my god, like out loud exclaiming. I was watching this in like the early morning, and my roommate heard me like gasping and like came up like, are you okay in there? Because I was just like, oh my god, the runes.
Yes, the runes. So we get revealed that the walls of the hex now bear the same runes that Agatha had in her rune. And Wanda, her face looks up, and her skin all becomes normal again, as if it was just an illusion that she was projecting. And she repeats back what Agatha said to her when she was within the room. Only the witch who casts the runes can cast her magic. And this again, I love that we got this payoff from that moment, and that it was alluded to a little bit. There was a couple little clues, including those wild blasts were her planting the runes on the walls of the hex, not just wild blasts.
And also there's always the previously on, and it specifically called out the runes, which I was like, oh, okay.
And one thing that I kind of pointed out a little bit earlier was that we saw Agatha earlier in this episode sort of, click her finger, or it might not have been in this episode. She might have done it actually twice, but she would click her fingers and she would, disappear in a poof of magic.
So we saw Wanda learning.
Yeah, we saw her literally observe it and then immediately do it herself.
Exactly.
So we knew that Wanda could just see her do something one time and basically replicate it, even without understanding it. She just needed to understand the point of it, basically. So when I saw that later, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense that Wanda would know the trick about the runes. So yeah, Wanda basically has prevented Agatha from being able to cast any more spells, and the color returns to her face, and she says something. She says, "I don't need you to tell me who I am," and she begins absorbing all the power back from Agatha. All of this red energy is flowing into her, and then she begins to glow, and the energy sort of surges into her and creates this great glow. And then we see that silhouette again, the silhouette of the Scarlet Witch image, the one that we had seen before when it was coming forth from the Mind Stone, except now it's coming from Wanda, and it's sort of as the light resolves and this surge of energy resolves, we see Wanda now in this modern version of the Scarlet Witch's uniform. Her hair is now wavy and curly. She looks super like picturesque and kind of hot and like really cool, and modern Scarlet Witch version, really tight. And then we just basically have, Agatha falling to the ground.
And she says, "You don't know what you've done." And she says, no, she's just like, it's hard to tell whether or not it's just despair over having been tricked or if she's like actually genuinely afraid of the Scarlet Witch, which has been alluded to as destroying the world. It's hard to tell because Agatha isn't exactly a trustworthy character, but maybe she is genuinely terrified of what this means for the world at large.
Yeah, I definitely think she is legitimately afraid, but also, I mean, I think she's doing it. We've seen that, she'll do anything she can to trick people. She is just a tricky person, and is clearly never forthright. She went through this whole thing with deception and has always done everything she can to just not reveal the truth unless it kind of served her. So,
as you said, though, she crashes to the ground, and we see Wanda approach.
Yeah, and Wanda basically decides, her punishment or what she's going to do with her is that she's going to let her keep being what she came here to be, Agnes, the nosy neighbor.
and Agatha's terrified of that, but Wanda basically says, "Hey, and if I ever need to find you, I know where you'll be." And we see her transform the witch Agatha back into lovable Agnes.
Yeah, we get a little bit of foreshadowing because Agatha had said, she said something along the lines of, you'll need me, you need someone to teach you or something like that, which I'm like, okay, heavy foreshadowing, heavy. We're gonna see Agnes or Agatha Harkness again, to somehow teach the Scarlet Witch something, maybe in Doctor Strange. I don't know if she's part of the cast yet, but
yeah, but also we can never see her again, and this is the cap to her. But
yeah,
this is we see the return of Agnes, and she's just like, did I leave the oven on, or is that just you, hot stuff?
Yeah. Hi, hun. So yeah,
delightful.
Yeah, there's Agnes again, and well, peace out to her.
Series wrap on Agnes.
Yeah. So after that, we get Wanda turns around and joins with Vision and Billy and Tommy, and she kind of looks at Monica, and they basically say, Vision says, "Well, hun, it looks like our house is something like it's a fixer-upper now.
Yeah,
but I know you'll set everything right, even if you can't set everything right with us." Kind of looking at her, she says,
not for us,
not for us." Then they start walking off to go home.
Yep, they return to their home. We see them in the room with the boys, tucking them in, wishing them a good night. It's a very sweet, tender moment. Like, we see, like, this is the last time, as far as she knows, that she'll see her children, and they take turns, like, hugging them, kissing them goodnight. And then as they leave the room, Wanda says to them, "Thanks for choosing me to be your mom."
Yeah, which is really, man, this moment was definitely kind of hitting the little heartstrings here. One thing we almost skipped over is that the fact that we see that the hex is now shrinking. So
I believe it. I don't know if we see it before they get tucked in or as they're being tucked in.
It's before, as they're on their way. We see the outside begin shrinking, and so when when she's there in their room, she does look out the window for a moment and can see that it's now closing in as they're looking at her.
Yeah.
And she also mentions what she had mentioned a couple episodes earlier, family is forever. Just a couple kind of like farewell, like nice things to say to them as they go to bed. And then she goes to step downstairs.
And so this is where I would jokingly say series wrap on Billy and Tommy, but I believe we get a little bit more from them.
Yeah, so, but for now, series wrap on Billy and Tommy. Get wrecked, kids.
All right, back downstairs, we have Wanda and Vision, and
Vision knows that it's coming to an end. The boys might not have understood, but he knows that that it has to end only a certain way.
And I believe we have Vision turning on a light, and he says, I read that it's bad luck to say goodbye in the dark. To which Wanda replies, "No, you didn't." And he says, "No, perhaps not. But really, I just wanted to see you clearly."
Yep.
And she replies, and he says, "And there you are."
And that's, oh man,
freaking whoever wrote pretty much everything that Vision says, particularly in the last few episodes, is just like, I mean, look, this show, I assume this show would be qualified as like a limited series, like in terms of like award shows and stuff. God, I hope it wins everything.
Yeah. Do you think that's not just the writer, but it's definitely the actor as well? Like his
I mean, his delivery is perfect, but
Yeah.
like there's also like that. It's just good
Mhm.
writing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, oh man, the way he says it just in the same kind of breathy sort of like tone, just like when we see Wanda having the memory of him first showing up, and he's just like, Wanda.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And it just belies this, like, how much, he actually, for being a synthezoid, an android, how much he can like care about her.
Paul Bettany deserves an Emmy.
Yeah, let's go. Come on, give it to him. Do it.
He deserves it. All right. So again, we get another clip to the Hex vanishing around them, coming in, and we get Vision approaching Wanda and basically asking her, "What am I?"
Mm-hmm. And Wanda replies, again paraphrasing, but she says, "You're my sadness and my hope, but mostly my love."
Yeah, that is pretty much what she said. She said, like, she begins off by saying, "You're the piece of the Mind Stone that lives in her, that she created, the blood, the wires." But in the sentiment of what she was getting across is what you said.
Yeah, and and they kind of like share this moment where that even though he's leaving, that there's some hope that they'll see each other again. I mean, he says this phrase that just kind of sounded like profound, for what he was.
He says, "I was a voice with no body, Jarvis, a body but not human, Vision, a memory made real, Hex Vision, and who knows what I'll be next."
I was just like, damn. I'm like it's like exactly whoever this writing is like explosions. Like, come on.
And we've said goodbye before, so it stands to reason we'll say hello again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they hold each other and stare into each other's eyes as boom, the hex comes in on them and it begins swirling around them, and you can see Vision, he's going away, and if you look in the background, it's swirling around the house, and the house is actually phasing through all the phases of the episodes and transforming until it finally, Vision just trickles away and his face is the last thing to go, and he just becomes
I didn't write down the last thing he says, but I think it's "farewell, my love."
I think so,
something along those lines.
I don't quite remember it, but yeah, it's something right along those lines. And then we have Wanda. She's just sitting there in that empty lot with the cinder block little wall and the same clothes she was when she first started it all. And she just puts her hood up and starts walking away.
Well, she goes back to the town square where she comes across Monica
and has a little talk with her.
As she's walking, she sees all the townsfolk giving her death glares, like they're not happy with her.
Yeah, of course they aren't. But Monica, she sort of like takes a moment to actually express her remorse over what she had to sacrifice and empathizes with her.
Really she doesn't begrudge her. She doesn't hate her.
Yeah, she's seen Monica for some reason has even before she really understood, and she can't understand because she did not see the memories we saw. We understand. I think as an audience, we actually have the most room to give Wanda a little room here, but nobody else really should.
Except Monica is aware of what happened. Like in the grander sense, she knows what happened to the Vision. She knows what happened to Pietro, and she knows what happened to her parents as a kid.
Yeah.
So she has some sense of an idea, and she also knows what that loss feels like because she literally experienced that loss a week ago.
Yeah, basically. And so, I mean, it's when I really like that they hammer home this point that Monica's character is compassionate, and I think that'll be important to her
and
her hero going forward. But yeah, she expresses this empathy with her, and Wanda expresses her
regret.
Her regret and how sorry she is, essentially. But she also says she doesn't know what this power is, but she's going to go learn. And as the police are showing up, she her clothes change into that of this, the Scarlet Witch costume, and she flies off, and boom, that's series end. Like,
Yeah, so yeah, that is technically where the credits roll, but
Yeah.
not quite a series end.
Oh, Marvel, you see, you dirty guys, you have to have mid-credit scene. Of course you do.
Not just one. So in our first one, we cut to Jimmy Woo on the scene in the town square of Westview, directing the cleanup efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And Monica approaches, and they have their reunion.
Mm-hmm. And up comes an agent from the FBI or something. She just has a badge, and she says, you know, Monica, or I don't know if she calls her Monica or Miss Rambeau. Yeah. Miss Rambeau, you know, they'd like to see you here in the theater. Monica follows her, and
just briefly, it's not super significant, but we see Hayward being basically arrested for what he's done. And they say, oh, Darcy did what she did and she's off somewhere.
Yeah. They were like, we can pay Kat Dennings for an extra episode. So
yeah, series wrap on Hayward, series wrap on Jimmy Woo.
Yep. All right. Peace out. But we get Monica follows the agent to the theater, and there doesn't seem to be anybody there. And as she steps over there, the agent approaches her and says, I'm with a friend of your mother's, and she transforms, and she is a Skrull.
Yay.
And she says, heard you've been grounded. The friend of your mother's would like to see you. She says, where's he at? She just points up. Nick Fury in the sky.
Yep, the male pronouns make it clear it is Nick Fury.
Yeah, absolutely. Gotta obviously be Nick Fury. Like so much like, oh God. And Monica just smiles and stuff. Like she's obviously gonna go blue, blue, blue. She's gonna go meet up with the real sword in the space station.
Series wrap on Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
All right. One more credit scene.
Yeah. Okay, Marvel, you dirty guys. You had to wait until you had to make 2, so some of us might miss it.
Jerks. How dare you?
Jerks.
I didn't want to know that this was made in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
That so Georgia peach credit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on. Like, get out of here. But yeah, so after credit scene, we have this natural landscape, mountains, green, grass and forests and whatnot. And we kind of start zooming in on this cabin just in the middle of nowhere. It's a little rustic cabin.
It felt reminiscent of like the Thanos cabin to me, honestly. But this one's on Earth.
Yeah, well, we assume it's on Earth.
Fair.
Oh, yeah. We zoom in on it, and we have Wanda. She's sitting on the porch, and she looks like she's drinking a little tea. And then we hear her kettle go off, and she steps inside to go attend to it and pour some more hot water. But our camera angle keeps going back into her back room. And as we enter there, we see this astral projection. And it's is
the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And she is like, she basically has the Darkhold in front of her. And she's like running through the pages, like with her magic levitating in the air. Mm-hmm. Basically, I guess, trying to learn something.
Yeah, very reminiscent of Doctor Strange when he was learning as well, when he would project himself in the astral projection and float a book in front of him. So that's what I was seeing as soon as I saw it.
And as she's going through the book, we hear
Billy and Tommy
screaming, Mom, help, Mom,
help. And she looks off, and then whoosh, red. And that's a wrap on the Scarlet Witch.
And that's a series wrap as a whole.
Yeah.
All right.
So, man, again, some of the, we're talking about it in some of these moments, like they do kind of like hit a little bit where you're just like, like that moment definitely leaves us a little cliffhanger. And like the Monica Rambeau, you're looking forward to this secret invasion in the future. And a lot of, there are some of these moments here that just really hit. And that's why in some ways, again, this, I don't want to say that, I do not want the sentiment here to be that this series isn't good, or I didn't like it, or this episode or whatever, because these moments really did hit.
Yeah.
But I think as we were kind of pointing out a couple little things along the way that just kind of were like, meh, like just little notes that didn't quite, just parts that didn't quite hit as well. And I think, again, expectations really high, and we were left with a lot of questions,
a lot of cliffhangers.
Yeah.
But that is how you reignite interest in the MCU after the resolutions of Endgame.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all basically ready for this after the year of no Marvel, but when you cut out the gate of your new phase with this.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is Black Widow had to be delayed, so this is our entry into phase 4, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is gold.
All right. So you have any points you want to touch on?
I mean, as much as we said that there are cliffhangers, it's a lot of things that we're just going to have to wait and see. I think the big things that tip off in the head is that I feel like we're not going to get answers to some of these questions until at the very least Loki, which comes out this summer. But I think the bigger question of Wanda will come apart in Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness, because we know that Elizabeth Olsen has been cast in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I was thinking about it, and one of the things, they leave a lot of cliffhangers, right? But I think that it seems as if they were the episode is a little longer than the last ones. It's 48 minutes with the credits included, maybe more like 43 minutes not including the credits, I think.
I would guess around 45.
Yeah, so I think they should have just given us a few extra minutes to kind of give us some scenes that really make the cliffhangers feel a little more where we know that the story, it's almost more like. So one thing I like to think of is Neovision. He just says, "I'm the true vision," and blast off into the ceiling.
Yeah, we have no idea what's happened with Neovision.
Yeah, like it doesn't even give us like a him, like sitting outside the hex, looking down and like questioning something or flying off to somewhere. I would like to have had that little 20, 15 second scene where we see that. And
I do believe that there are people theorizing. I think I had seen a video saying this is what happened to the Neovision, but people theorizing stuff is not confirmation. We won't know until we know.
Yeah, and again, it's all right to have a cliffhanger. I like the question that I'm asking, but give me it in a way that doesn't make me go, "Oh wait, did I miss something? What happened to the Vision guy?" Like they don't give me like a little something to go on. He was just gone. Like, oh, blast away.
See, yeah, like that's something where on my second watch, I was like, well, I know I'm not going to see him again, so I'm able to stop thinking about him. But the first time I watched it, I kept wondering, where's Neo? Where's White Vision? Where'd he go?
Yeah, exactly. I think the notes like that, like even Agnes, like we see obviously she's turned back into Agnes, but then she just left her on the ground.
Yeah. Where's she going to live?
Yeah. Where's she going to live? Where does she go? Is her house still there? Like
her house was Ralph Boner's house.
Yeah. What happened to Ralph Boner? Like again, series wrap on Ralph Boner. He was the last thing we saw was Monica sitting on top of him, takes the thing off and he says, "Please don't hurt me."
And she says, "Hi, Ralph."
Yeah. Hi, Ralph. Again, was there like all right, Ralph, you stay here? Or again, we could have just taken like a scene that was 15 or 10, 20, 30 seconds longer to just kind of tie it up a little bit more. And it would have made me feel a little more like, okay, done. Like in my head, I know that he's resolved. Not that, are we going to come back to Ralph? Are we going to see more Ralph? Are we going to see Agnes again? Are we going to see Neovision again?
It is a valid critique. I would just say that they don't want you to feel resolved. They want you to be waiting for the next hit.
Yeah, I mean, I get, but they could leave me asking questions. I mean, they basically do that, right? They make you, they take Monica. See, she gets a real resolution, right? We have Monica come out, and then she meets the Skrull, and has a little Skrull interaction. We're kind of like, oh wow, ooh, what's gonna happen? Monica, she's gonna go meet Nick Fury. We're gonna have all these things that we're gonna think about it, right? But I feel like that was a good resolving moment, right?
Yeah, and I think that we're led to believe we're gonna see Monica again. We're led to believe we're gonna see that Vision again. I refuse to believe we're never going to see that Vision again. I don't know if we'll ever see Ralph Boner again. So maybe that is the last time we'll ever see him. And it does feel a little lackluster if that's the case.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll never see Agnes again. But I think the Agnes one is more or less resolved, to be honest. It's magic. She'll figure stuff out. Yeah. She'll get a job.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that's my point. There's just those kind of weird little moments where, and I think that's the key, like you said, is that because when you're watching it the first time, your mind is still open on these guys. The case isn't closed on them. Like we said, we're telling you now, series wrap, because we know that it's actually over. But on the first episode, you're still, the case file isn't open. And you're like, wait, what about those other things? And you don't even know. Like it's not like I was thinking back, like, oh, what happened to Ralph Boner? But I was thinking, like, I was like, huh, like, I'm like I'm like a little too confused. There's too many things I didn't resolve in my brain.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. The episode as a whole wasn't looking to resolve all of these side characters. It was mostly looking to resolve Wanda and her family, and to a certain extent, Monica. Those are the focuses of the series. And we did get resolution to this WandaVision, the Hex episode in Wanda's life. And we can really basically understand that the themes that were articulated in the previous episode are correct, that it is an exploration of love in its form of grief and how that manifests within us. And it's a more broad manifestation of how that grief, if you don't deal with it properly, how it can affect others.
Yeah. And I honestly, this show, I mean, the show's just been pretty great. It's been a very interesting and unique viewing experience.
Look, I think that this is maybe controversial, but I think I enjoy this show more than The Mandalorian.
Oh, that's a hot take for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that maybe it's just something about The Mandalorian that appeals to me more. And you know, it just kind of hits certain notes that I find more entertaining, but I can see why you might say that, because because this is a unique television series experience. It definitely is just,
I don't think I walked into Wanda. I think I walked into WandaVision expecting like wacky, funny stuff and like some like real like exploration of what the future of the MCU is. I don't think I expected the themes of this to hit harder than any other MCU property has. Like the emotional depth of this film rang more true than pretty much anything other than maybe Tony Stark in Endgame.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. We've kind of talked about it before, but this really just touched on like real grief, and I mean the expression of that and getting to see these things. And in the end, maybe one thing I wished I saw more is like how, I guess, Wanda, she sort of accepted that the Vision and Billy and Tommy had to go, but I wish we got a little bit more about like how a person, besides just, being a super magical being, resolves that in some way that a person can connect with. Like I feel like we were able to connect. We were able to connect with her grief so well and see that like those things there, and so many people can connect with that. But it would have been really great if Disney had brought something in there that helped people understand how they can process that.
They don't necessarily have a way of how to process it, but it does give us an example of a person who is handling it better, and that's Monica. Monica dealt with the grief and presumably dealt with a lot of that grief off screen, but I think Monica is the example of being able to push through it. And you know what, there is, in a certain extent, that scene, that great scene in episode 8 where Vision talks with Wanda, that is the sort of helping to deal with it, being able to look at grief as an expression of love, which again, that's the quote of the series. I
you know what, I definitely agree with you, and I think it does bring some, there is a little bit there, and it is good resolution in some way, but
I think it is personal connection is the only solution, the only resolution to grief.
Yeah, it's just I might have asked for a little more. I might have asked for just a little more. I feel like something more direct or actionable. I like that. I do like the interaction with Monica and Wanda. And now that you point that out, it almost makes it like you can look at this where Monica is kind of like a foil to Wanda.
Yeah, I think she is. Yeah.
And that little action right there at the end was kind of a resolution that, her saying, I understood, I understand what you're going through. It happened to me too. And even an example of how you can, still be compassionate to others who are, this is actually even a good lesson in how you can see other people that are acting out and causing maybe inflicting negativity on others around them.
And instead of reacting with looking to punish them, reacting with empathy, recognizing that comes from such a, I'm sorry that I interrupted you there, but it's coming from a place of like Monica recognizes where this negativity came from. And instead of lashing out at her that she's a villain, being able to speak with her and figure out what is the actual cause of this, trying to resolve that pain, because that pain is what has caused this, not her being a bad person.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we as the audience can empathize with Wanda easily because we got to see literally the scenes. We got to see everything that she went through and why it led up to all these moments and why it caused this pain and suffering. But in real life, it's not like we get to watch the scenes of somebody else's life and understand why they've come to a point where maybe they are inflicting that negativity. So coming at it with more compassion and understanding, and understanding that everybody goes through something and they're brought to the places in their life for that reason, I think it is powerful.
If we were ourselves in a Marvel Cinematic Universe world where we're just hearing about this on the news, Wanda Maximoff is a domestic terrorist turned supposed superhero who then went and mind controlled and basically tortured a town of people. The media as a whole and most people would have no sympathy for this woman.
Yeah.
Sword had no sympathy for this woman other than Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy.
Yeah. Who really, I would even say in some ways, Monica was leading them to think that there was more. She was the one. I mean,
she was in there. She watched what happened.
Yeah, Jimmy and Darcy did literally watch the Wandavision, and so they empathize with her because they're watching it as a broadcast, and they want,
they're just like us.
Yeah,
they're able to empathize with her, just like we're able to empathize with her because they see the context.
Wow, see that's beautiful. That they are the literal audience. Like we are the Jimmy and Darcy in the show.
And there's almost like the. I don't know if this is an intentional within the text idea, but it's the sort of way that people are able to emotionally connect with celebrities in general and be able to empathize with people when, like, even if you don't know a person, if they're opening their life to you and expressing who they are as a person to you, and you feel that you are seeing their genuine selves, you're going to grow attached to a person. You're going to empathize with them even when they make mistakes. And that's something that people do frequently with celebrities that allows them, like, sometimes celebrities get the things that they do are reprehensible, but sometimes they make honest mistakes and their fans try to rightfully defend them because they don't blame them for what they did. And so, but sometimes the media, let's take the Britney documentary that just came out, how the media was able to portray her as the crazy one. The Sword was trying to portray Wanda as the crazy evil terrorist. But if you're able to look beyond the facade that's being created that she's the bad guy, really she's just dealing with stuff. She's dealing with pain and no one's helping her. She's all alone.
Yeah. And I mean, basically in those moments, I mean, in Wanda, we see it exercises that she just lashed out and created her own world, fabricated this stuff around her to console her in her grief. But unfortunately, most people don't even get that. So what happens when they lash out? I mean, it really just comes out as it just harms the people around them and in some ways, pushes people away from them when in some cases they need more compassion.
Yeah. What she needs someone to help her. And in a way, what she chose to do at the end of the episode wasn't the right decision. And that's why. So you've mentioned before that you watched the game theories, and now I've gone through and I've watched Matthew Patrick's film theories on this series. And he alludes several times that the odds are that Scarlet Witch is going to become a villain. And I want to get to that point where I think she ends this series making the wrong decision to go off by herself trying to fix her problems,
Mhm.
because her problems of loss and feeling alone and stuff isn't going to be solved by her going off and being alone.
Mhm.
That Darkhold's not going to fix her like issues. Like so many of the villains in this series are really just people who don't have someone with them to humanize them, to help them, to pull them from their dark places. And whereas Monica has other people she's interacted with that are helping her through this, presumably, like she's going to have Nick Fury. She had Sword with her, and she was with Jimmy. Wanda's alone. Like her friends at the Avengers compound were Tony and, or I mean, not really friends with Tony, but she was allied with
Cap
Cap
and
and
Vision,
Vision.
obviously.
Yeah. And I believe, and so like any connection she has is gone. And
Black Widow as well.
Yeah. Any connection she had basically
Mm-hmm.
is gone. She's alone. So her going off alone isn't going to help her.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it is deep. I mean, one thing I would like to say is that taking some time to work on yourself away from people isn't always not the correct decision. As a real life analog, I think in some ways that when I'm not feeling well, I process things on my own well. But I think having people you can rely on is also really can be very positive and fundamental to your growth and getting out of those places. But I do think that you might be correct in the sense that Wanda going off to study the Darkhold, which is like kind of sounds like an evil thing,
Let's look at who was previously alone with the Darkhold, Agatha.
Yeah.
And how good is she?
Yeah, and again, no spoilers here, but the Darkhold does not cause lots of good things in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So without even looking up anything more in the Marvel comic universe,
I mean, it doesn't sound very pleasant.
Yeah, the Darkhold. Yeah, it doesn't sound very good. And her, searching, already taking on these powers she doesn't understand. I guess here's the thing, though, is that she's reading the Darkhold because it specifically has a chapter on the Scarlet Witch in it.
Which is fair.
Yeah, which is fair. So it is a good place to discover more about apparently this mantle that she is assumed. But, and I will also say that it looks like Wanda is in a peaceful place, literally having tea. So maybe in some way she's trying to give herself some self-care, some self-love, and be away when she feels like she's harmed so many people by being close to them. Maybe she's just giving the space that she needs. But
the fact that she's doing the astral projection thing, to me, felt like she's almost fractured.
That it was a really excellent point, because I thought that it was strange that she was able to astral project, but also her body. I mean, we see in that scene that her body is moving and operating while she's astral projected. So, So is that something like the Scarlet Witch mantle is something kind of separate within her, and she's able, or maybe she's just more advanced than Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange can astral project, and time seemed to slow down in astral projection. This
almost feels like the correct way to establish the Dark Phoenix that the X-Men movies never did. Because it feels in a way like a Jean Grey Dark Phoenix situation where she had this power as Jean Grey, she had this power as Wanda Maximoff, but the Dark Phoenix, but the Scarlet Witch that resided within her all along is unleashed, and it's tapping into some dark powers.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely something. There's a lot. There's so much. I mean, to unpack here continuously as the months go forward and to think about. But
so now I kind of want to just look ahead at what we have to look forward to. Like I said, we won't see anything else with Wanda until Doctor Strange 2, which let's theorize, I guess. What do you think? What do you expect to see? I'll just say that I expect her to kind of be the bad guy in the movie, and as Matt Pat's film theories suggest, I think she's going to try and bring back her kids, because I do think that we're going to see Wiccan and we're going to see Speed established as superheroes. I think the point that Wiccan is a fan favorite LGBT character in the comics makes him hard to pass up as being created and established as a character. So I for one believe that's going to be a thing.
Yeah, so I mean, if I had to give any kind of predictions at this point, just based on some of the stuff we know, I suspect that we're gonna get the return of God. I can't remember his name. It's like basically the character in Doctor Strange, Mondo.
Is it
like
the guy at the end of the first movie that
Yeah.
became the bad guy?
Yeah, so I believe I had heard before that he ends up being kind of a villain of Doctor Strange. And so he kind of had this attempt, like he seemed like he was done with this, he didn't, the order was fractured. It was led by someone that was, misguided. And so he believes that those teachings are wrong now. And so I think he is going to maybe sort of combine, I think he might end up interacting with Wanda and sort of saying, I can help lead you. You need the knowledge, but you need to help me destroy Doctor Strange or destroy this order. And I think Wanda, we're going to see her basically trying to pull her kids into being and understanding how she can, understanding how, like, by doing it, she's going to be having to like pull from another a universe where they exist, essentially.
Yes.
By pulling from a universe where they exist, it's going to maybe like shatter that universe, or she's going to really rip these universes into one another. And so, I mean, it's going to be a struggle against her completing her plans somewhat. And I think when she does this, it's going to be again a multiverse shattering effect. It's going to literally open up portals or create these
this is
continuities.
This is the movie which, according to a quick Google, that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are supposedly going to be in. They're not in the next Spider-Man movie. They're in Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going to see I just suspect that her trying to bring those things together and that's going to be, I don't think that the world, they're saying, you destroy the world or you cause the world to end. I don't think that I think it's the world as we know it ending, kind of a reinterpretation that like the world as we know it, because she's going to smash multiverses together and change this timeline of you. Like she may actually in some way, she might end this multiverse and bring, like, almost combine, I don't know what the number is, but that universe, and basically end it and combine it with another universe, make those universes the same, and one, and because of that,
like
create this madness.
The MCU verse with the Sony Pictures X-Men verse, or the Sony Pictures Spider-Man verse, and
make them one. Make them one, and by that, she's going to end. Both of them are going to be. So it's going to be madness, because both of them are going to have things that are going to conflict. The fact that maybe in some
multiple Peter Parkers.
Yeah, exactly. Multiple Spider-Mans. And it's going to be in some ways madness, and it will end one world in that way. That world will have ended because it will now be a new universe and a new one, because in the Sony universe, if that is also a Marvel related universe, that universe has Infinity Stones still. That universe still has a Thanos.
True. And wow, yeah.
And beings that are greater than that are above the multiverse this will be, a pretty cosmic effect. Things that like have some sort of presence or omniscience to those things will be alerted that here, based on this Earth, something clashed the multiverses together, and they're either going to want to destroy that power or take that power.
Which I've heard theorized that these beings we may get a glimpse of in the Loki series, because he's going to start with the time, messing around with the space and time stuff. Yeah,
Nexus beings. I even suspect that maybe we could see Wanda mentioned there or referenced, and potentially the Vision. I think I like to think maybe we'll see the Vision come up, Neo Vision, a lot sooner, in some sort of production.
I don't know if we'll see him in Doctor Strange, but I think we'll see him. Maybe the Loki series. I could see that. Let's see who else. So Monica, I believe I've heard that there is to be a Miss Marvel series. I don't know if that will come before Captain Marvel 2.
Miss Marvel is about a teenager.
Okay,
so it is a totally different character. The girl essentially likes Captain Marvel and looks up to her and gains powers.
I do anticipate that we will see Monica within Miss Marvel if it's related to Carol.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But But the understanding is that Captain Marvel 2 will come before that series.
I think so, yeah. And I think we're definitely going to see Monica in Captain Marvel 2.
Yes.
We got a lot of foreshadowing from Monica about her relationship with Carol Danvers being pretty strained, even though, I mean, Carol was like a, auntie, or, she like loved and cared about Monica, but I suspect it's something.
She's been distant. She's
been
been
distant, and she maybe wasn't there for her mother to die and wasn't there to support her or be around.
She probably was there for her mother to die because she was there when everything was gone.
Oh yeah.
She didn't get snapped away, and the mom didn't get snapped away.
Oh yeah. So
but she hasn't. But she hasn't come back to see Monica.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know what Carol's done.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't afford Brie Larson for WandaVision.
Yeah. Like, oh, Brie Larson, you're such a big deal now.
I remember when you were in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah. Yeah. So any other thoughts about suspects about what else we're going to see?
I hope we see more of Jimmy Woo. I hope we see more of Darcy. I like them. I like their characters.
Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean,
I don't know if she's confirmed for that movie, but I mean, we're going to see, what's her name?
Natalie Portman.
Yes.
Yeah. Natalie Portman as the new Thor. She-Thor.
Yeah, her and Valkyrie. That's gonna be a fun movie. God,
yeah.
That's
girl power.
God, that's gonna be a good movie. I mean, I don't want to get the hopes up too high, but I have yet to see a bad Taika Waititi film. So
yeah. Yeah. I mean, for now, I don't know if there's any other points I might make. Final thoughts here.
Final thoughts. Great series. I do not regret saying that I like it more than Mandalorian. Maybe my favorite Marvel property thing in general. I think it shows that the Marvel cinematic universe is still going strong. It's still on the right track. We're not going to see this. We're not seeing it veer off yet, so I think it's going to be strong for the foreseeable future. And if you're not already on the Marvel train, I'm sorry. I feel so bad for people who have no interest in these movies.
Yeah, I have friends that actually they had not started watching it until I think like Infinity War or Endgame was already out, and they watched all the way through. And it was kind of like, well, yeah, come on, guys, like catch up here. Like, yeah, I'm glad you guys got around to it. Like, it's kind of the best thing ever.
And at this point, it's 20 movies in. Like, yeah, I myself like felt so long that it was like such an effort to watch all the Star Wars movies, and that's like now it's like 11 movies, but like for a while it was just 6 movies I had to watch. But now it's 11 movies and 2 series. And even that's less than the MCU. And it was worth it. And everyone should watch all of the Star Wars properties. And everyone should watch all of the Marvel properties, unless it's not your thing. But if it's not your thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, if you're going to watch Clone Wars, it gets better after season 2, I promise.
And I mean, the first 2 seasons aren't even bad. But like the season 3, yeah, I do think it does. There is an arc in there that I'm just like, oh, I'm into this now.
Yeah. But I mean, final thoughts on WandaVision. This was an incredibly unique and crazy sort of series that took me to new places and really brought me. I will say it hit some points in some and a few of the episodes that felt. I mean. Felt akin to moments like the Avengers getting together. I mean, just these like height, like after so long waiting for Marvel, it just hit so many good things for me. And I appreciate this series. And though I think in some ways, like that final episode might have just a little bit let me down, I still think the series is great. I
don't disagree. And I really don't disagree with that. But I just think it, for what it is, I'm not saying that it's a perfect show by any means, but the highs it hits are just so good. But
and I want to say I appreciate Disney for trying to do something different. I think this show was a little different. It wasn't typical, and I appreciate them for going out of the box and for trying to do something new and keep Marvel interesting and fresh in some ways.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think we've gone a bit over on our time for our normal shows. So
there's no limit here. We'll talk as long as we wish. Yeah. But until next time, everybody, this is Robert.
And Ryan.
Have a good one, folks.
Yep.